Oh, some new scrutiny now on why the FBI under President Biden at the time was grabbing phone records of Republicans. And one of those Republicans is now President Trump's chief of staff. Current FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau obtained phone records, his phone records, and those of White House Chief of Staff now, Susie Wiles, years before either of them held their current roles. Those revelations are fueling new claims of deep political bias within former President Biden's Justice Department. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Investigators have those subpoenas were issued in 2022 and 2023 when Kash Patel and Susie Wiles were both private citizens. Those phone records ultimately landed with then special counsel Jack Smith. He later brought federal cases against President Trump. Patel says the news is, quote, outrageous and deeply alarming that previous FBI leadership secretly subpoenaed my own phone records, end of quote. Susie Wiles reportedly told associates, quote, I'm in shock. Trump officials tell Axios this might be the tip of the iceberg. Republican Senator and Homeland Security Committee member Ron Johnson is coming up in focus. And we begin with Justice correspondent David Spunt in Washington. David.
Harris, good morning. A lot of tension behind the walls of the FBI headquarters here in Washington, D.C. 10 FBI agents were fired yesterday. More could lose their jobs over this, we are told. The FBI Agents Association is furious, arguing that agents don't pick the cases they work on and are being unfairly targeted without due process. But FBI Director Kash Patel is equally as furious about his phone records being obtained when he was a private citizen by the bureau that he now leads. Now, these relate to phone calls between Patel and other people, Susie Wiles and other people, in 2022 and 2023. This was before he led the FBI and before she led the White House. This began with the FBI. It morphed into Jack Smith's two investigations over then former President Donald Trump, his alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election, also his taking classified documents to Mar-a-Lago. As far as the phone records are concerned, Harris, we're told they are toll records. This means investigators were able to see phone numbers called, times and dates, but not the specific content of the calls. However, in one instance, we are told in 2023, two sources tell Fox the FBI recorded a phone call involving Susie Wiles. We're told that her attorney was aware that it was being recorded, but she was not. The White House would not provide an on-the-record comment from Ms. Wiles to Fox News. The FBI Agents Association says these actions, meaning the firings, weaken the Bureau by stripping away critical expertise and destabilizing the workforce, undermining trust in leadership and jeopardizing the Bureau's ability to meet its recruitment goals, ultimately putting the nation at greater risk. We reached out to spokespeople for former DOJ and FBI leaders in the prior administration, did not hear back. A representative for the former special counsel, Jack Smith, says no comment. Harris.
David, thank you very much. And if this sounds like Chapter 2, it is because it is. You recall the FBI obtained the same phone data from 9 Republican senators during the Arctic frost investigation, so it became named, which became Jack Smith's election interference case. That list includes my next guest, Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, member of the Homeland Security Committee. So you were on that initial list, and I know you have some thoughts about that legally as well. But now there's this new one. What do you make of it?
Well, again, this just is further confirmation of the wide dragnet that Jack Smith and the Biden Justice Department were casting, trying to really make a crime out of what was not a crime. And as troubling as the separation of power issue in terms of getting phone records from members of Congress, and then some of these other big names like Kash Patel and Susie Wiles, as outrageous, maybe not more outrageous, are the phone records and the dragnet against just ordinary American citizens. We had more than 30 Wisconsinites. And these people who've been county chairs for decades, for years, they just happen to be the alternate slate of electors. the lawfare that's being conducted against Judge Troupas, who is President Trump's lawyer, who did what, quite honestly, the attorneys for Al Gore should have done, so he would have had a case before the Supreme Court. Develop a alternate slate of electors in case he won his court case, looking at all the irregularities in the Wisconsin election. Again, the problem we have with the election fraud is it's never thoroughly investigated. There's always a rush to certify the elections, and once certified, boy, nobody wants to take a look and go, boy, maybe we certified that election.
Why do you think that is?
Well, again, there's always a time crunch. You hold the elections. Nobody wants to admit, it seems like, that there might be fraud in the elections, that there might be problems, that there might be, partisanship occurring in certain precincts or certain counties. So people just don't want to admit it. And of course, the people who are cheating, they're going to cover it up. It's very difficult to investigate it. The losing candidate doesn't have the funds to do it. Law enforcement really is not interested. Courts aren't interested in. I mean, you had all these instances where 80 courts looked at irregularities in 2020, and they dismissed all the cases. They dismissed the cases largely without looking at any of the evidence, and that's part of our problem here.
Well, and Senator, what you're pointing to is that everybody wants to see, is there evidence or not? There hasn't been, because now you're telling us the timeline is so tight. We'll move forward with this. All they had to do was stand up. You've probably heard it a million times by now. President Trump's big State of the Union moment on illegal immigration is a ready-made political ad. Well, here's that moment Tuesday night.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
So if you were thinking it could become an ad, just like that, there's this.
These people are crazy.
That spot was cut by a conservative group and will run nationally and target races in several key states. This headache for Democrats now may stretch beyond the midterm elections. A potential presidential candidate already put it on spotlight. Watch.
Look, it's not typical the opposition party stands and claps for every moment, but on that line, would you have?
The president had a choice last night to speak to the American people or to spar with those in the chamber, to either try to unite our country or further sow division. And that's what he did.
Okay, so that was a non-answer from Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. What do you make of this? I mean, this is just one ad. I'm hearing among some lawmakers, you might even want to make several.
Well, first of all, I was shocked but not surprised when President Trump just laid out that basic principle, that the first duty of government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Everybody should have stood for that, no matter where you stand on Biden's open border or whatever, but you ought to at least say that, no, I mean, American government ought to protect American citizens, right? That's just basic principle. The fact that Democrats just sat on their hands, just looking like a bunch of sourpusses, but not only in that instance, again, that was just a brilliant display of the difference in the parties. But, for example, when we were sympathizing with the mother of the Ukrainian woman who was brutally murdered on the train, when we were celebrating the healing of a young girl who was hit and grievously injured by an illegal immigrant driving an 18-wheeler, you can't even stand and celebrate that young girl is healing. They wouldn't do that. So again, it's a stark difference. You would have had to be in the chamber. These videos don't do it justice. You had to be in the chamber and just look over the Democrats. I don't think they're capable of squirming, but they should have been squirming in those instances where they wouldn't even stand and acknowledge and celebrate some of the successes President Trump was trying to point out. And certainly in that instance, I mean, literally, you don't think government ought to first protect American citizens? It was shameful.
Look, before I let you go, you mentioned you were in the room. It was different in the room. You've known some of these people for years, including the 73 that didn't show up, some of those people. Is there a shift inside the Democratic Party that you can describe to us?
Yeah, it's been overrun by radical leftists. This is not the Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy or even a couple decades ago. These are radical leftists, really begun by Obama, who wanted to fundamentally transform America. That's what Democrats try and do. They're fundamentally destroying it. And I just plead with Americans, stop electing these people. They are destroying this country.
Senator Johnson, thank you for being with me today. We'll move to this.
Have a great day.
You too.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.